Well, for many of us, we can't wait to get out and go camping in the great outdoors, especially after a year of being cooped up with all the COVID restrictions. Well, today we're going to chat about getting ready for your RV to go camping. That's if you have an RV. We'll also have some tips on what to look for in an RV if you happen to be shopping for one. The woman who will offer some of this advice is Bev Humphreys, manager of Skyline Travel Center in Lethbridge. Bev, welcome to Bridge City News. So great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start things off by discussing what we need to do at the beginning to get an RV ready for camping season. It seems like a lot. There's a lot that goes into it, isn't there?
Well, there's a lot, but it's not a big deal. If you don't feel comfortable, always take it to a dealership. If you feel comfortable in summarizing the unit, by all means. There's just a few steps that you need to be careful with. You want to make sure that when you are summarizing a unit that you are bypassing the water tank because you don't want the antifreeze to go into the water tank. So you make sure you do that. Lots of YouTube videos out there on how to do that as well. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the antifreeze lines are completely flushed through with fresh water.
Okay. All right. What about the plumbing system? What do we have to do to get ready, especially after a cold winter, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure that there are no leaks anywhere. So when you do pressure it up, you want to check your taps. You want to check under your sinks, around your toilet, outside your shower, outside shower, anywhere there's water could be potentially running. You want to check for leaks there because you don't want surprises when you get out there camping. So
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
really, really important to double check everything like your toilet valves, your inside and outside taps, both your shower, sink, and kitchen faucets.
Yeah. What kinds of potential trouble spots? What kind of trouble spots should we
Well,
be aware of?
if you do happen to have a leak, it could be a leak in the line somewhere because it wasn't properly winterized, or yeah, it wasn't properly winterized. And you want to make sure that you don't have any corrosion and leaking in those lines because if you do, then you've got potential water damage. So
Definitely want to avoid that. Absolutely. So, what are some of the typical places that tend to start leaking after winter storage?
well, the most typical is if it's not properly winterized, is your water tank can bust. So it'll be swollen and a big crack down the side of your tank. Or your lines somewhere going through could have broken. So especially if there's water left in them over the winter, and who knows, we could get a harsh winter anytime. So you want to just check every line. You want to check every faucet. um, Number one thing would probably be the lines going into the taps of every, anywhere there's water running.
Right. Now, I'm sure that mice can also wreak havoc on an RV. Are there any specific areas we should be checking for chewed wires? Perhaps begin by popping open the hood.
You pop open the hood, check your wires going to your batteries, check your wiring going to the RV. Anywhere that is bigger than a your baby finger size, they can fit in.
Wow.
So, and you want to make sure that they're filled. In my unit, I took steel wool and I stuffed steel wool in any little spot that I could see daylight
Okay, good
because they don't
idea.
like steel wool because it's kind of itchy.
Oh, well, for sure. Now, what about batteries and battery connections?
The batteries, you want to make sure there's no corrosion on them and that they haven't chewed the lines. We have seen a couple of them already this year where they've chewed the lines and we've had to replace lines and stuff. So just a good visual check is the most important thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe talk a little bit about tire and wheel maintenance and how important your braking system is.
Okay, for your tires maintenance, number one, in my idea, is you check to see if there's any cracking around the sidewalls. You do not want to have a unit going out that has had, it's got cracking in it because it could blow a tire. You want to check the dates on the tires to make sure they're up to date and stuff. Tire pressure is very important. Your braking system is really important because um, the braking system actually slows down the trailer on the unit that is towing it. So if it's not functioning properly, you're going down a hill, that trailer's going to push you down the hill instead of slow it down.
Makes sense.
So you want to always check all the wiring. My biggest suggestion is, and I will keep reiterating it, is check your unit thoroughly before you head out. Same thing as if you're going to go on a long trip in a car, you check your oil, check your gas, everything. Same scenario. You don't want surprises along the way.
Definitely not. Absolutely. Especially when you're riding in the mountains and whatnot. Just absolutely.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, you're going out to have fun, not to have, oh no, this isn't working. So that's what you want. You want to have a fun, enjoyable trip. So,
Absolutely. Now, any advice on heating and air conditioning systems? Should we be checking things like propane tanks also?
oh yeah, your propane tanks, make sure they're not outdated and that they're full. So many times we get people calling in, my propane tanks are empty and I'm up in the mountains. What do I do? Well, especially in RV, in a motorhome, you have to pick up your motorhome and go fill your propane tank. So regular maintenance. We did have one customer that came in, and I absolutely love this lady. She had a checklist. And to me, that was the smartest thing. She had a little checklist that checked everything off before she went out, checklist for when she came back. She never had any issues. I thought that was the smartest thing they had in their RV. But propane tanks, if you don't have your propane tanks full and it's a cool evening, you might run into trouble.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
your propane tanks have to be full. You also want to check on your the connectors that they're not leaking anywhere, and that can be done just by soapy water around the connectors. And if there's a leak, it'll bubble up. So that's a good easy check that anybody at home can do.
Yeah, absolutely. What about heating and air conditioning systems?
So your heating system, you want double check it before you pull out. Same with your air conditioning. If you do find that there's an issue, by all means, call us or call another dealership. And most people will be glad to help you out. A lot of things are hard to diagnose over the phone, but everybody's there to help out.
Yeah, for sure. Often what about the expansion and contraction with weather changes? They can cause leaks in the seams of the RV
Oh,
body,
they can
can't they?
cause, yeah, they can cause leaks. They can also, a big factor is with lino. If it's warm and then cools off over the winter, you can expect in some cases that your lino is going to take a big crack and it'll be right down the center of your unit. And it's a replacement time for that. We've seen a bit of that even with our own units. If the winter is mild and then turns harsh really quickly, you will get cracks in the lino.
Yeah, and that's the best way to just spot that is just looking for cracks.
Look for cracks. Look for. I mean, there's really not a lot you can do about it until it actually happens. You can protect all you want, but without being able to know what the weather's going to do, it's a little bit more difficult to diagnose.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned shopping if you're in the market for one. So a lot of people are actually thinking about purchasing these right about now. It's the time of year for sure. So you do repairs every day, so you know what to look for and what to avoid, especially if you're in the market for a used one, right? So what key aspects should a buyer be looking for in an RV?
So number one, if a customer calls me and says, "I'm buying a private unit," what should I look for? I always say to them, if you're serious about buying it, get an inspection done. Ask the seller to bring it in and do an inspection on it. If they feel 100% that they're in the right and that they've divulged everything, they will be more than happy to do it. If not, be leery. The other thing that I highly recommend is due diligence. Do your VIN check. Make sure it hasn't been stolen. Make sure it doesn't have a lien on it. And we're more than willing to work with people in doing that. I've done a number of them this year because people are buying. There's a lot of private units out there, and people are selling privately this year more so than other years. And so it's just due diligence. You want to make sure that there's no water damage to the unit. There's no mold in the unit. You want to make sure that your appliances are all working. And I mean, anybody can say, "Oh yeah, everything works just fine." And we witnessed it last year. You know, people would come in, they'd say, "I need a new water heater. I need my new water lines. I need this. I need this." But my when I bought this unit, they told me it was 100%. So due diligence is the biggest thing.
Yeah, just like if you're buying any used car, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. You just have to, and number one thing I say, use your gut feeling. If you don't feel comfortable about it, by all means, be careful.
Yeah, definitely. Buyer beware. Now, I understand that the type of material used for the body of the RV can also make a difference. Maybe talk about that.
It does. There's a hard wall and there's a what we call stick and tin. Stick and tin are the ones that have the ripply edges on them, and there's advantages to both. The hard wall is if you're in hail country, there's less likely to have damage. The stick and tin, if you happen to back into a bush and you have damaged one little corner, you can replace that quite reasonably with just replacing the one or two panels that is involved. Whereas a hard wall, you have to basically replace the whole wall. So there are advantages to both. A lot of people think the hard wall is the way to go. I'm flexible. Like the stick and tin, and the stick and tin, you'll be able to tell them because on the stick and tin, you'll see the ripple. On the hard wall, you'll see like just like on your house, you've got the boards that go up and down, your 2x4s or whatever, with the insulation between. And when they get cool, you can see the lines in them.
Okay.
So
So that's a good way to watch out for it. Okay. Interesting. What are the biggest signs to watch out for if an RV has been neglected or abused?
oh, the biggest signs is you want to get up on your roof and you want to check and see if the seals around all the vents and any of the like stacks on the vents or anything, if they're cracked and weathered, they haven't done their yearly maintenance and there are likely to be water damage inside.
Okay. So, how can you tell if it's got water damage?
Well, you can tell by if you go inside and visually see water stains on the ceiling. That's a good sign. Or if you tap on the outside walls and they're spongy, that's a very good sign. Um, or even on the inside, if you push on the walls and they're soft, you know there's been water damage in there. And if you look down the side, like if you look at the back of a trailer and you look straight down or a motorhome and you see rippling, that's a sign of delamination. And that's one of two things. It could be water damage or it could be where the sun has baked it so long that the glue has come off um, the hard wall and it's rippled a little bit. So it's a little bit, you got to know what you're looking for. But once you see it, you know exactly what to look for.
Okay. So
So,
many things to watch out for.
mhm. And that's why I always say when you're buying a unit, inquire with a dealership and just get their opinion.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is worth a lot of money.
It sure is. Great advice. Thank you so much for your expertise today, Bev. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate being invited. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Bev Humphreys is the manager of Skyline Travel Center in Lethbridge.